Hi students, I'm now going to show you how to do the chiaroscuro drawing of your bust. So here I have my bust, and you probably can't see it very well because it's kind of dark in here. And I have draped a black sheet in the background. I just happen to have a canvas, and I put this table up against the wall and leaned the canvas on the wall, and so it's draped around the top edge of the canvas and it's just hanging down. And I'm in kind of a dark room. I had another sheet and I put my sheet up over the window since it's daytime. Yep, there's the top of the canvas. And let's see, I've got all my supplies here that I'm going to use. First of all, for drawing, I saw these at Walmart the other day. They were about $14. They've got clips on them, and it makes it so that you can get one of those giant sketch pads and you can clip it. I've got mine on my easel right now, or you can just set it in your lap and draw on it. It's super nice, and I'm going to show you also how to fix your paper to your drawing board. And it doesn't have to be a drawing board. I mean, you can just draw on the table, whatever you want to do. You could even get a big book. You could do a different colored paper. It doesn't have to be white, or I just have a regular piece of white printing paper because that's probably what most students are going to have, and I didn't want to be like, you know, all high tech on you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use some painter's tape, and I'm going to tape down my paper, and I'm going to use this tape to also create a border. So I'm just going to kind of, let's see if I can fix this on here. You want it to be nice and straight, obviously, since it's a border, and you can see through the painter's tape. So there we go, I've got it started. And now I just have to get my other edges. So go like this. So this just makes it so that it has a really nice finish to it when you have a border. Okay, you just want to press it not too firmly down, just slightly press it down so that when you're drawing it doesn't get underneath the edges. I also do this when I paint as well, unless I'm painting on a regular canvas. But if I'm painting on paper, I'll make a border. Like if I'm making Christmas cards, for example, I'll just cut out all of the paper and I'll line them all up on the counter, and I'll tape each piece of paper down onto the counter like this, and then I'll paint whatever I want to paint for the Christmas card, and then when you peel them all up, they just look so nice and professional. So this is a really nice technique to use. Okay, so if you watched my going shopping at Walmart, you saw that I purchased a nice little kit. Let's see. It ended up being a little bit cheaper than I thought it was going to be. I got this great kit here. This was about $6. Maybe it was $7, I can't remember. And then these were $3. And somehow my total with tax and everything was under $11. So this is what was called willow charcoal. It's also called vine charcoal, like a vine of grapes. Okay, so you can, I've never actually heard anybody call it willow charcoal before. So if you're going to an art store, tell them you need some vine charcoal. I never heard it called willow. And then this little kit. So I'm not going to be using everything out of the kit, and I want to give you guys some options because not all of you are going to go to the store and purchase a kit. So for those of you who aren't going to be purchasing a kit, let me introduce you to something you might have around your house. They're called crayons. You need pure black to be able to do chiaroscuro, okay? That's why I have it set up on a black background, and that's what you're going to do as well. You need a black background. Don't set it on a counter that has patterns and things like that, because you need to take a picture of your bust. So I'm doing both things right now. I'm photographing my bust, and I'm drawing it, and you need to do them together. So the photograph of your bust is going to look very similar to your drawing, if that makes sense. So you've got to have dark. Another thing is I've got this of my daughter's, so I could just use that to do my drawing. And then I love this. I forgot to mention this in my store. I'm sure they have these at Walmart somewhere. They're erasers, but it's like a pencil. The nice thing about them is that they have a fine tip. So if you're going in to erase fine details, like you want to erase in a highlight, because all a highlight is white, so you can create highlights just by erasing a little spot. And also a little makeup applicator, if you have something like this around, or just a little piece of cotton like from an old t-shirt. That makes a great blending tool. Okay, when you have pencils, you need to have a sharpener. It's always recommend to get a metal pencil sharpener for your drawing pencils. I've got 2 sizes in there. And then this is a piece of charcoal. This is kind of a hard piece of charcoal. I prefer soft, dark, pure black charcoal. That's really soft and easy to apply. This is not my favorite piece of charcoal, but my favorite piece of charcoal is gone now. I used it all up, and I haven't been to the store to get a new one since who knows when, because I have all these drawing supplies. And this is the kneaded eraser. So, or the gum eraser, and these are fun because they really pick it up, and you can mold whatever you picked up back into there to make another clean surface. You can point it to get it in any angle that you want. That came in my kit that I got. That's what was so great about that kit, is that it had the gum eraser that I wanted. It also had these stubs. These are awesome. These are used for blending, and I'll show you how to do that. I'm trying to find some lighting where you can actually see it and it's not all blurry. There it is. And the paper, it's just wrapped paper. If you use it all up and it gets icky, you can just unwrap it and get a fresh, clean surface. But you've got to have stubs. If you don't have a stub, what could you use? You could use Q-tips, your fingertip, once again, an eraser tip. You don't always have to blend. You can use an eraser to blend, because if you're doing it just softly and lightly, might not erase, it might just more blend it. So these can also be used for blending. Something that this kit had that I really wanted was charcoal pencils. So I got the charcoal pencil, and it had a white pencil in it. This is for going in later and putting in highlights, okay? But if you want to highlight in your drawing, what you do is you leave the paper blank. You don't put anything down in the areas that it's going to be white. So you plan that way when you're looking at your drawing, and that's why it's important to set this up as a still life with your lighting and everything, so that you can see exactly the way the light hits it. Let's get our lighting set up. So all I'm going to do to set up my lighting is I'm just going to grab my cell phone, and if you drag down your phone, or if it's an Apple, I think you drag up, I'm not sure, and you get your little flashlight. Okay, look, there's my source of light, and you'll notice as I move it around, you can't see as well as I can inside of the mouth. It's got really dark, and inside of my eyes, it's got really dark shadows. But let's see if I just bring it up here a little bit, and it's right here where you can see it. Okay, so notice the way, if I bring the light source over to one side, you can see the dark inside the eyes and the mouth. And I can change that light source and move it around in different areas to get different effects. Okay, but what you're going for is you're going for a chiaroscuro effect. You want that, the pure blacks against the pure whites, okay? Yeah, you can see that my sculpture is falling apart quite a bit. Don't worry, that's the cool thing about being an artist, is you don't have to draw it exactly the way you see it. If you've got blemishes, leave them out. You don't have to draw those in. Okay, so that's what I'm basically doing over here, is I'm setting up my little dude. I'm not going to bring my light to the front like that, because that's not going to give me any dark shadows inside the mouth. I'm going to be bringing my light source over to the side. And so I've got to figure out a way to fix my light source now, and I'm going to pause my video and be right back after I've done that. Okay, so I actually decided to set mine up in such a way that I've got some nice shadows, and you can't really see them as well in your camera, but I love the cast shadow. So you always want to think about things like cast shadows when you're working, because they add so much depth and just another layer of intrigue and interest. So let's go ahead and I'm gonna take a photograph. That's right. So get your photograph done. Grab another phone in your house, whoever's got a phone that you can use. Or if you don't want to, if you only have one cell phone, you can use a different type of light. You can just get a lamp and take the shade off and set it down somewhere to create your light source. But I'm going to go grab another phone and take a picture of this really quick. I'll be right back. Okay, so I've got another cell phone and I'm just going to take a picture of this. Do you know that when you go to take pictures, to make it focus on something, you tap the screen? Whoops. Just trying to clean off the lens there. All right. So you tap it. And I'd probably take mine at a nice angle. So I might set mine up for just for my picture a little bit differently so that I can get the whole thing. And I might just take this light source by hand and adjust it right where I want it just for my picture. And see if that's gonna work. My images might be a little bit too blurry. Let me just tell you, I don't have a great camera, and a lot of you will be working with a similar situation. So I'm gonna go for it one more time. You gotta take a good picture of your sculpture. I mean, that's the most, you're turning that in, you know, so we've got to be able to see it. I abhor my camera. It just keeps on making it super bright. Okay, so back up then maybe. Maybe I'm too close. So if I back off a little bit, I'm not quite so close. I can always go in and crop it later. Right? Let me show you. I think I got... That one's pretty sharp right there. Does this see it? I'll show it to you later. I got one that turned out good, okay? All right, and then go ahead and set up your light source again the way that you're planning on drawing it. Mouth and the eyes, you want to have it so that your light source is coming from one side. As you can see, it's lit up on the left side and it's dark on the right. So we're going to be getting tones and be thinking, where do I see pure blacks and where do I see pure whites? Remember, pure white on the page is going to be left blank, and the shadow is going to be pure black, and the background is going to be dark. And you've got maybe some close to pure blacks in your mouth and your holes and stuff like that. But I've got pure black down here at the bottom. You've got different values. And you just take a minute and look with squinted eyes at your subject, at your sculpture, and squint your eyes so all you see are shapes of value. Value meaning from pure white to pure black and all of the different shades in between. Okay, be picturing pure value. All right, so now you're going to take your vine charcoal, if you have that. If you don't, you can take a pencil and just sketch real lightly the contours. So I'm going to squint my eyes, and I know that you just want to be making sure that you have enough room on your page. So I'm just quickly going over, and I've got to make sure that you can see what I'm doing. Okay, so I know that you can't see this very well, but what I'm doing is I'm just planning out my space a little bit. So I'm thinking my sculpture takes up about this much of my page, and then my shadow is going to come from down here at the base, and it's working its way up the wall. I want to make sure I have enough room for my shadow on the wall, because that's going to be one of the coolest parts about this, is that it has that great shadow. Okay, and so now that I've got that composition sketched out, I'm just going to go ahead and also just solidify what I'm doing. So remember how I told you I've got that gum eraser? I'm going to go in and just kind of erase where I made lines that, you know, that were in the wrong place. And you'll love this Vine charcoal because it comes right off the page. So it's great for sketching, because any marks that you don't like will literally be 100% gone, which is fantastic. And you can always go in later too and fix things, but that allows you to go back in then, and then maybe you're looking at the contours first, just kind of outlines and getting the basic contour of it, because then you can go in and build your value later. So go ahead and get your contour line going, and you should be doing this with me. Don't just sit and watch this video. You should have all your supplies out and be working with me at the same time that I am. Now, you don't have to do, hopefully your sculpture doesn't look identical to mine, because I showed lots of pictures of other student artwork in our last class and tried to exemplify for you the variety of different ways that students will solve the same problem together. It's just awesome to see how everybody has their own version of the same thing. That's what makes it fun to do art, when everybody doesn't have a product that looks exactly the same. That's great. So even with your vine, you can even kind of go in and do some of those darker values where you see them. Now, it's not pure black, and it is a really soft charcoal, so it's not going to stay. You're going to have to go back over it with your real black. But it just lets your eye kind of see. See, I'm just kind of sketching in those, remember I said squint? Look at the places where you actually see the pure dark. And just start sketching that in. Okay, and then when I get to the edge and I see that dark shadow, I realize, oh, that value that I just put in there is way darker than it should be. So you can go in and just gently, this is just a makeup applicator, and I can just lift that charcoal, that vine charcoal right off. Now, it's not going to work like that for your other charcoals that are darker and harder, but I can see that I did get a little crazy, and it was just a little too dark in there. Okay, so I've got kind of my outline going, and I'm not trying to be like super perfect or anything. I'm just getting general shape. That's it right now, because we're going to go in and render it and make it look three-dimensional later. So drawing is additive and subtractive. So right now I'm subtracting with an eraser. You can subtract with a sponge. You can subtract with a piece of cotton. So always remember that. You're always adding and subtracting, and that process is called rendering. Okay? Perfect. So I'm going to go ahead now that I've got my contours, and I'm going to set in my background. So this is where, if you've got a black crayon, any kind of black crayon, or you've got a piece of charcoal, this is when to do it. Now, what's the darkest, most pure black part of the background? It's that cast shadow. So that's what I'm going to be doing, is going in and making my cast shadow pure black. And once again, notice how I do contours. First, I get that contour line in. Okay, and that's going to come all the way up to the edge of my sculpture. So I'm just drawing what I see as far as color and value goes. I see a pure, and the way my camera angle is, you're seeing it a little bit differently than the way I see it, so don't stress. The nice thing about a piece of charcoal is that you can go on the side and rub it in, but you can do this with your crayon. Whatever you're doing it with, you got to make sure it's pure black. Otherwise, it's not chiaroscuro. Remember, it's those intense shadows contrasted against highlights. That makes chiaroscuro. Okay, so you're doing it with me, right? We're drawing together. Yes. That's what makes this fun, so we can do it together. If you do it with me, then we'll get done at the same time. So far it's been 24 minutes and I've been talking my head off. But during that 24 minutes, hopefully you've been getting all your supplies put together, everything set up. You took your picture. It's got a great light source coming from one side. Boom. Do you see the chiaroscuro right up against the cheek? That's going to make my sculpture pop right out because I've got pure black right up against those lighter tones. That's chiaroscuro. Perfect. So you get that cast shadow if you decided to do one in there. Okay. Beautiful. Okay, so it's not finished because you always want to go in and smooth it so that it looks refined. So I'm going to smooth. And notice when you go to smooth it, it lightens it up quite a bit depending on the kind of charcoal that you used. And that's kind of a bummer because then that means you have to go over it again to get your pure black back. But it will look better because it's not going to have white in it. Okay. So blending is pretty important. So now that I got that, I can go over it one more time. And this time it'll actually look a little more refined. I don't know if you can tell the difference now. It doesn't have little bits of white popping through any longer. So remember, it's additive and subtractive. So when you go to blend, sometimes it will subtract some of your value and you'll have to go back in and add it back in, but vale la pena. It's worth it. Because in the end, your product's going to look more refined, like you took the time, like you cared to make it look good. Okay. Not looking for perfection, just evidence that you tried. Right? Okay. So now that that's done, the value that I see in the background, it's pretty dark. So I'm going to go ahead and a little lighter, but still pretty dark. Come in around my cast shadow and fill in that value. On your sculpture, you're going to want to work a little closer, a little more careful, but you do have to go right up to the edge of your sculpture, right? If you don't go right up to the edge of it, you're creating some artificial kind of atmosphere that doesn't exist. Lights don't just go, oh, I'm getting close to the edge of an object. I think I'm going to stop lighting right here, right? I've seen a lot of people like to put this aura. They're afraid to go up to the edge. Don't be afraid to go right up to the edge. You have to, otherwise it just doesn't look right. Perfect. Look, it it already looks like I'm pretty much done, huh? Amazing. All I've done is gone in and sketched with a little bit of vine and put in some values in the background. Okay, but I'm not done. It looks really sketchy, right? And so we're going to go in with a piece of cotton or toilet paper or your finger, and we're going to smooth this out, okay? Smooth it out. Don't rush these things. You want that to go all the way out to the edge of your border anyway. So work on that. Da-da-dun. The stump. This is what the stump is for. It's for getting in and blending these areas. Nice. You can get right up close to the edge. That is beautiful. Nice. Perfect. And we're almost done. So how's that background looking? Should I go in and add some more value? I absolutely think I should, because I blended it. It doesn't look as dark anymore, and I do want that dramatic effect. So I'm going to go back in now that I have that blended down. And I'm going to get, and see how I just created that halo effect? No, that's not what I wanted. I don't like that halo effect. You've got to bring the value all the way up to the edge, okay? Don't make a halo. Get in there and bring the value right up to the edge. Adding and subtracting, adding and subtracting. All right, nice. Okay, so maybe I'm gonna go over again with my stump. Now this is the thing, is that there's different types of charcoal. So this charcoal that I've got right here is actually, I'm barely feather touching this. It's not very dark, is it? It's not. So I'm gonna have to just have all that texture on there, because if I keep on rubbing it any further, it's just gonna come right off the page again. So there are charcoals, and you can ask when you go to the art store, say, I want a charcoal that when I lay it down and go to blend it, that it doesn't come off the page. I want it to stay pure black. And whoever works this store should be able to help you find that kind of charcoal, okay? So now I'm going to go in and I'm going to work and get a little of the darker values here inside. So wherever I see that it's a little darker, I'm going in with this piece of charcoal. I know I've got some really nice dark values down here underneath the chin, and I'm not trying to be perfect, because I'm going to take that stump and I'm going to blend it in a little bit. And I'm going to take my eraser and erase the places where I messed up. So you want to be looking at your you want to be looking at your sculpture and squinting your eyes and just chalking in or drawing or penciling in shapes of value. Okay, you can see I'm not getting all crazy like specific right now. I'm just putting in some shapes of value. It doesn't look right now, does it? You've got to have a side of your object that's in highlight and a side that's in shade. So figure that out on each of the different areas. that's looking pretty good. And now I just need to take my stump and blend. Can you hear my kids out there fighting with each other? Now, as I'm blending, I'm making sure that the values stay in their shape. So I don't want to have it so that, you know, I accidentally blend two areas together and now it all looks like one. You've got to respect where the highlights are. Wherever your highlights are, you keep them there. Don't cover them up. Don't make them dark. Just leave that part of the page white. Okay, so unfortunately it's all starting to look one tone now, which is a bummer. I don't think any artist is ever wanting to make their art look monotonal. And that's the challenge here with this assignment, is to try to get it so that you don't just have one value or one tone, okay? You have the mid-tones, you have different values. You're really looking at your object and you're trying to see the different shades, and you're taking the time to erase where you need to erase. Yeah, once you get those values in there, then you can go in and tighten them up with the eraser. And you're gonna mess up. You're gonna, oops, I erased too much there. That's gonna happen. Here's what I was talking about, where you can go in and just gently erase in a highlight of an area. I'm pretty sure that I went too far when I blended the edge of that sculpture in, so I'm going to go in here and do a little bit of erasing and get the edge of my sculpture back. Yeah, bring that back in there. That looks nice. Really nice. That's great. Perfect. I'm getting the bottom of the chin really nice now. It's looking fantastic. So the eraser is important. You could just use the tip of a pencil to erase, of course. Around the lip, you might have to do some erasing. And you might also have to go back in there. And this is where those pencils come in handy. Where I can, in the finer areas, go in with my pencil, charcoal, and get the edge succinctly. I can go in and get a lot sharper detail with the edge of a pencil. Now, that pencil's a little light, so I'm going to go in, see if I can, this one might be a little, no, this one might be a little darker, but, oh, there we go. Oh, nice. I got it to put in some nice value right there. That looks good. Get the outline of this eye socket really nicely. You might want to get the cheek indenting a little bit here more. So sometimes I kind of give up what I see on when I look at my sculpture, and I look at my paper and I go, all right, what makes sense visually in my drawing, you know. Okay. Erase. This eraser tip is not very pointy, but I am gonna try and get in here and try to make that look like a lip. I think you saw what I did there. It's not going to be perfect. You can really literally sit and render forever. You really truly can. You do, you know, what you're happy with. Okay, and I might have had a little bit of sunken cheek over here. So I'm gonna fill that in a little bit where I see a subtle different value there. And this has so much charcoal on it that I'm actually going to take a cloth. Did have a cloth earlier, I'm not sure what happened to it, and I'm just gonna wipe my stump off, so that when I go to blend, I get a cleaner blend. It's not just caking on old stuff. So, real subtle, using my eraser to softly, gently blend and erase a little bit because it just got a little bit too dark there. And going back into my lip and establishing that highlight a little darker. And I go in and make sure that edge looks good. Okay, so how you doing? Are you having fun? There's a little bit of value down here, under here. It's not too much, but there is a little value. Put that in. And now I'll use my eraser to pull the highlights back out on the chin. And then you also, if you have that white, that's where you can go in with your white and you can actually just pencil in your highlights. That's nice, huh? Okay. So this is looking really fun. I'm loving it. I'm liking this white. This is really cool to go in and use that white to blend and so there's all different techniques that you can use, and don't be afraid to try things out, you know? That's what you're here for. Just try some things out, see what you like, see what you don't like. It's my little nose. I have to say, when I was making my nose, while I was sculpting it, I was really liking my nose. And then when I went to draw it, I was like, oh my goodness, this nose is so hard to draw. Okay, so I got my nose all one tone there, and I need to pull out my highlights. So I'm using an eraser. Erasing out the highlights of the nose. Yeah, I just have to kind of give up on my nose because it's very frustrating that I can't get it to look the way I want it to. And sometimes that's going to happen. And oh well. It's just the way it is. Maybe I'll just go in and make it look the way I wish it would look. All right, so I'm nearing the end of my project here. How you doing? You about there? Dun, 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 dun. Just go back over it real quick with an eraser. Blend in. Pull out your highlights. Really make sure you get those whites white. Recognize when something's not supposed to be black. It's supposed to be gray. You know, honor the value that your eyes see. Put it on the paper that way. If it's too dark, grab your eraser, erase. Guys, I am so close to being done. It's 51 minutes and my drawing is done. Woohoo! How about you? You could sit here forever. I'm not kidding. You could literally render forever. I'm not, you know, I don't want to see you torturing yourself. So just get your values in there. Make it look pretty good. See, look at that. Blending with an eraser. Who'da thunk? Okay. Is it perfect? No, it's not perfect. But I did what I needed to do. I created Chiaroscuro. I've got tenebrism. I've got this guy popping out. If you want to put your signature on there. Yeah, mine's not gonna. Can't even see it. You got to take a picture of it. So remember when you're taking your picture that you want to take it square to the page. Don't take it at an angle. Actually, I really want to show you what this is going to look like when I take off the tape first. Okay. It did pull off a little bit of the paper. That's because I'm using copy paper. So be careful when you pull it off, not to pull too tight. But hey, that's a pretty cool looking border, huh? That's fun. You can also do your signature right in the border. And you know what? I'm going to leave mine right there because when you crop it for us, I don't want you to have that white border on it, okay? I just want to see the art itself. So even though, yes, for physical form, it's nice to have the border on it for a physical piece of paper product. But for your actual submission, I don't want to see a border around it. I just want to see nothing but the pure black. Okay? So make sure that you get a nice sharp picture. And I'm going to, now that I've taken the picture, I'm going to crop it so that all I can see is the pure black. And I'll make another video to show you guys how to edit everything in GIMP, okay? Cool Modi!